So we're in Austria here. Obviously a wet race. I was hoping for a wet race because, as you can see, I qualified P9 in the dry, losing 3/10 in the last corner, but that was the difference between P5 and P9. But nevertheless, P9 is where I wanted to be because I thought further up the midfield incidents could happen, just like Augusti now as he spins off even before turn 1, and I gain a couple of positions, and Jose and Panache collide, go off track, and they are going slowly. But here going up to turn 2, me and Coutinho are side by side, and Jose, I'm side by side with him afterwards, but then I get distracted by his car, put a wheel on the grass, lock up, can't turn in, and go wide, and thankfully the ghosting system saves me again the second week in a row. Yeah, as I said, I got the wish that I wanted a wet race because my dry pace was quite abysmal, really. And having done a practice race with Womack and Coutinho early in the week, I knew my wet pace was pretty decent, on par with them at least. So I was looking quite hopeful here. As I gained 2 positions up to P7, I'm looking to attack ahead. And obviously, China was a wet race, a full wet race, which I performed really well before disconnecting. But here I'm looking behind instead of in front of me as Coutinho dives it down the inside, but I get a better run and go around the outside of turn 3. And then similarly in turn 4, Coutinho dives down the inside again. I leave space and drive around the outside, which is the superior line in these wet conditions. And lap 11 here, King of RTA, Ben, is hot on my heels. He's really quick in this race and he's getting held up by me. As you can see, I'm moving over to cover him because, yeah, spray's a nightmare and I do want to make things as difficult as possible for him as he's behind me. But as I head to turn 3, one of my favourite corners, normally in the dry, I just understeer completely wide and it's just horrible. This race was an absolute nightmare to drive, and unlike China, which was quite amazing, like especially when you're down in the dumps in likes of P7 fighting, it's just horrible. And lap 14, another one of my favorite corners in the dry, I seem to think I get a good exit, but somehow Ben gets a better exit, and before I know it, I forget to cover him off and he's side by side with me and I have to leave him space and concede that position. Really annoying there. So on to lap 15 now as Ben is ahead of me and his spray is now in return causing me issues. The tables have turned and I smash into the back of him, tap him a little bit, but thankfully his race is not affected. He doesn't spin out or anything. And lap 16 I understeer wide. Again, the same mistakes I made 2 laps ago and continues down my inside. And yeah, I've lost another position. I have to pit now. I make a quick decision to go into the pits because I do not want to be stuck another lap behind him in a spray. It's an absolute nightmare. And that decision works out because the undercut works. And I come out ahead of him into P9 I go, and it will be P8 once Matt has pitted. Lap 26 though, Coutinho's putting me under a huge amount of pressure, and I make a mistake in turn 1, get a huge snap of oversteer, and Coutinho has passed me, and now I put it around the outside in turn 3, but there's just no grip in the wet. My tyres are so dead, and this was an absolutely miserable race to drive. It was horrible. And that is the end of Coutinho in my race. Won't see him again. So yeah, at this point I was just driving around looking behind instead of in front, and all that hope from early on in this race when I was in P7, all that hope from China that I thought was going to repeat itself here is over, and it's just made even worse now as Augusti just hits me from behind and misjudges his braking point and sends me into gravel trap. So yeah, really horrible. It was a really frustrating race and just encapsulated now in lap 31 as for the first time in this mono league I am lapped, which means my last lap of the race will be lap 35, which may not be a bad thing considering my tyre is absolutely horrible. And lap 34 I have to save fuel, so I had fuel issues throughout this race, and Solidarity catches up to the back of me and goes to within 1 second, but thankfully he never does pass me, and I'm holding on for dear life at this one point. I do not want to finish last again like in Canada. And as we head towards the final 2 turns, Augusti slows down, and I did think that more guys in front were going to have mishaps in terms of tyres, perhaps if it stopped raining, or running out of fuel, or incidents, crashes after lap one, but it just never happened and couldn't capitalise on anything. My pace was appallingly poor compared to my practice earlier in the week, and my wet race hopes just turned to dust, really. It was horrible. E9 is just not where I wanted to be, and my best lap time was the slowest in the whole field, showing my lack of pace and my struggle in this race. But next week is Silverstone, one of my home Grand Prix, so I'm really hoping for better.